Picture this, it's 1984. You walk into your local hobby shop. The smell of fresh plastic and model paint hits you. And there, on the shelf, is a box with the most incredible artwork you've ever seen. A sleek off-road buggy blasting through a dirt track, black and gold, looking like it came straight from another dimension. The price tag says $39.99. You beg your parents for weeks, and the day you finally crack open that box and pull out the Hornet, it might be the best day of your entire childhood. Tamiya. Just the name sends Gen X hobbyists into a full nostalgia spiral. But here's what most people don't know. Before Tamiya was the king of hobby shops everywhere, it started as a sawmill. And before it became a nostalgia brand chasing its own past glories, it was the company that literally invented how an entire generation played. This is the rise and fall and complicated survival of Tamiya, the sawmill that built an empire. We start in 1946. Japan is in rubble. World War II has just ended, and the country is in the middle of a painful rebuild. In the city of Shizuoka, a man named Yoshio Tamiya opens a sawmill and lumber business. Tamiya started in 1946 in Shizuoka, Japan. Founded by Yoshio Tamiya, the company initially operated as a sawmill and lumber company. With Japan in the process of rebuilding after World War II, Tamiya began producing wooden models to meet the growing demand for educational toys. Hobbyco Shizuoka is important here. It would later become the undisputed capital of Japan's hobby industry, home to dozens of model manufacturers, and Tamiya was one of its first. The wooden ship and airplane models they made in those early years weren't just toys. They were precision objects, built with a craftsman's pride. In 1953, the sawmill was closed, and Tamiya became a specialized wooden model kit maker. By 1955, they released a wooden motorized tank that became immensely popular. And by 1956, a boom in wooden ship models allowed Tamiya to become widely known. Tamiya blog. But the winds were shifting. In the mid-1950s, wooden model sales were decreasing due to foreign-made plastic models starting to be imported. Wikipedia Yoshio's son, Shunsaku Tamiya, saw what was coming, and instead of fighting the tide, he decided to ride it. In 1960, Tamiya introduced their first plastic model kit, the 1/800 scale battleship Yamato, and with that one kit, everything changed. Hobbyco Act, plastic perfection. Shunsaku Tamiya became the engine behind what Tamiya would grow into. He had one obsession: quality. Not just good quality, the best quality in the world. Since their start with educational wooden models in 1948, Tamiya has unswervingly striven to be first in quality around the world. That motto wasn't marketing copy, it was a mandate. Tamiya. In 1961, Tamiya released the first 1/35th scale motorized tank, the Panther. By 1963, they were launching multiple product lines: 1/21st scale tank series, 1/50th scale Japanese aircraft, 1/72nd scale aircraft. The catalog was exploding. Tamiya blog. And the detail was unlike anything else on the market. Tamiya's innovative techniques, such as slide molding and the use of poly caps for movable joints, revolutionized the way models were designed and assembled. Their collaborations with automotive and military companies resulted in incredibly accurate and detailed replicas. Hobbyco military modelers worldwide went absolutely nuts. The 1/35th scale military series, tanks, half-tracks, infantry sets became the gold standard. If you were serious about scale modeling in the 60s and 70s, you built Tamiya. But Shunsaku had bigger plans. He wanted Tamiya kits to actually move. The Golden Age, RC, buggies, and backyard glory. The late 1970s and early 1980s were when Tamiya transcended hobby shop shelves and became a cultural phenomenon. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Tamiya recognized the growing demand for RC models and seized the opportunity to innovate. By integrating advanced technology and high-quality craftsmanship, the company elevated the hobby experience, making it more accessible and exciting for enthusiasts worldwide. Tamiya model, and then came the cars. The Grasshopper, the Sand Scorcher, the wild one. But the one that truly changed everything? The Hornet. The Hornet's distinctive black and gold livery, spiked rear tires, and aggressive look made it one of the most recognizable RC cars of the era, and it quickly became one of Tamiya's best-selling kits. Widely credited with helping to launch the RWDRC buggy boom that swept backyards and dirt tracks worldwide through the mid-1980s, Silodrome. For many, the journey into the world of RC cars began with a Tamiya kit. The Japanese company excelled at creating realistic and engaging models that were as enjoyable to build as they were to drive. Tamiya's clever marketing and accessible designs made them the entry point for a generation of hobbyists. RC car world. The box art was a huge part of this. Hand-painted illustrations of cars midair, engines screaming, dirt flying. Those boxes looked like they belonged in a museum. Kids would stare at them for hours before even opening them. Alongside realistic RC models of full-size production and competition cars, Tamiya designed a wide array of two-wheel drive and four-wheel drive off-roaders that set the template for the over-the-top futurism that became the hallmark of remote control cars in the 1980s boom years, as Tamiya led a tremendous surge in radio control car modeling's popularity as a hobby in competitive motorsport. The utopian then became Mini 4WD, and in Japan, it became something else entirely. Since their creation in 1982, Mini 4WDs have sold over 190 million units. 190 million units. That's not a hobby, that's a national obsession. Tamiya blog. Tamiya held a national racing event for elementary and junior high school students in 1988, ushering in the first popularity boom in 1989. In the middle of the 1990s, Mini 4WD cars became popular again thanks to manga and other pop culture works. The manga series Dash, four-wheeler, and later the blockbuster Bakuso Kyodai Let's and Go sent Mini 4WD sales into the stratosphere. Every corner store in Japan had a Mini 4WD track. Kids were modifying their cars like tiny engineers. Tamiya blog. This was the peak. Tamiya had gone from Sawmill to global empire in less than 50 years. Asset 4, the fall, or was it? Here's where the story gets complicated. Because Tamiya's fall isn't the kind of dramatic collapse you saw with, say, Radio Shack or Blockbuster. It's something slower and in some ways more painful. The 1990s brought new problems. Video games were eating everyone's leisure time and discretionary income. Kids who might have saved up for a Hornet were now begging for a Super Nintendo. The hours of careful assembly that made a Tamiya kit rewarding started to feel like work to a generation raised on instant gratification. Cheap Chinese-made RC cars flooded the market through the 1990s and 2000s. Ready-to-run models that required zero assembly, cost a fraction of the price, and honestly, they were good enough for most kids. Why spend a Saturday afternoon building a kit when you could be driving something right out of the box? As hobby shops suffer under the downturn of retail caused by online shopping, many of the oldest and most interesting stores have closed for good. And when the hobby shops disappear, so does the browsing experience, the community, the culture around the kit. You can't replicate the feeling of standing in a hobby shop aisle in an Amazon warehouse. RC toy memories. Consumer preferences have also changed. It is certain that few children are interested in making things. That was the real gut punch. Tamiya's entire value proposition, the joy of assembly, was becoming a liability. Tamiya blog. And then there was the re-release problem. As the decades passed and nostalgia for toys of the 1980s grew, Tamiya even began remaking past hits, trading on past glories, yet releasing few brand new models that could be said to carry the spirit of what made those originals great in the first place. R/C toy memories. When your growth strategy is nostalgia, you're no longer building the future, you're packaging the past. The complicated survival. But here's the twist ending. Tamiya is still here. And in some ways, it's figured something out that a lot of other legacy brands never did. After Tamiya launched racing events in 2012, in which adults were able to participate, Mini 4 WD became newly popular as a hobby for adults. Instead of chasing kids who were already lost to Fortnite and YouTube, Tamiya leaned into the audience that actually remembered them, the 40 and 50-year-olds who grew up with a Hornet in their garage. Tamiya blog. Tamiya's flagship facility, Tamiya Plamodel Factory Tokyo, located in Shinbashi, Tokyo, had its grand opening in 2024 and is attracting a large number of people, including office workers on their way home from work. Office workers, not kids. Adults decompressing from the grind by racing tiny cars they loved as children. Tamiya blog. Mini 4 WD is a hobby that can be enjoyed across generations. Today's Mini 4 WD is no longer just a nostalgic past pastime. It has become a sophisticated hobby that adults can seriously enjoy, requiring knowledge of processing techniques and setting up the cars. Tamiya blog. And then in July 2025, the man who built modern Tamiya passed away. Shunsaku Tamiya, who took over what had originally been his father's sawmill business and made it into one of the largest plastic model companies in the world, died on July 18, 2025, at age 90. The New York Times ran an obituary. A sawmill owner's son got a New York Times obituary. That's how much Tamiya meant to the world. Wikipedia, so has Tamiya fallen? Not exactly, but the empire it once was. When every kid in America or Japan was saving up for a buggy kit, when hobby shops had waiting lists for new releases, when the Hornet was the coolest thing you could own, that world is gone. What's left is something smaller, but maybe more real. A brand beloved by the people who grew up with it, now sharing that love with their own kids. A sawmill that became a legend, and a little black and gold buggy that still, 40 years later, makes grown adults feel like 10-year-olds again. If you felt that, smash the like button and tell me in the comments, what was your Tamiya?